This video is going to go over how to set up some basic settings for your Google Classrooms. So you will need to do this for each of your Google Classrooms so that you know what you got. So we're going to set this up for the class that you guys are a part of. So a couple of things that we want to do both in the classroom and in Synergy. So when you open up your Google Classroom and you open up the class that you would like to make changes to, now unfortunately, this is something, if you have different settings, you want to change the settings, you would have to change them for each of your class sections. This is not a global, so if I make a change for this AHS classroom, it won't make a change for my DigSit class or anything else. So I need to make sure that we go into it. So when you open up your class, you're going to set it up and see, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to settings, and the settings is the cogwheel at the top. This is, you've already been in here if you needed to change the name, if you brought your classes over from Synergy. This is where you're going to make sure that you can make any changes that you need to do for this. So what we were going to do is, if we scroll down to the general section, here we have our class code. And so what you can do here is I can reset the class code if I need to come up with a different class code. You want to avoid doing that because then you would have to re-link it to your Synergy classroom as well. This is a way, if you're going to invite students through the Google Classroom, you can display it, copy it, whatever you want to do. For your stream, so the stream is your basically the what's happening in your Google Classroom. So the stream is going to be where the students are going to live most in either the stream or the classwork tab. So what you can choose, and this is where you get to decide, do you want students to be able to post to the stream, making it a very inclusive classroom, requires more monitoring by the teacher, because if the students are maybe posting something, you want to make sure that it's appropriate and it's for the class. You can make it so that only students can only comment to things that are on the stream, or only teachers can post and comment on the stream. If you set it up to where only teachers can post or comment on the stream, students would only be able to post to classwork assignments or questions that are asked of them through the classwork tab. So this is really, where is it that you see you wanting to be? Be honest with you, this top one is going to require a lot more monitoring by the teacher, or really working with the students to create a climate of inclusiveness and appropriate behavior on the classroom. I have mine set up so that students can post and comment and work really hard with them to make sure that they're being appropriate, and have some really awesome discussions and engagement when kids are posting on the stream with some authentic learning. But it does require a lot of front end work to make sure that you're setting the kids up for success with it. So you can set up whichever way you would like to set up. Classwork on the stream. Again, the stream is kind of when they come into the classroom, it shows you what's going on in the classroom. I have it so where it's a condensed notification. What that means is, so what you can do here is set up and say, okay, if when a classwork assignment gets posted to classwork, a condensed notification says a new assignment was posted in classwork. So I require my students to go over to classwork to see the new assignments that have been posted under classwork. If you have show attachments and details, that means the stream is going to have all of your classwork assignments on there, or you can hide to where there's no classwork notifications. I don't like to hide the notifications, because then that makes it where kids have to check the classwork tab all the time to make sure that they know what's going on. So I like to keep students informed. I keep it set at the condensed notifications. And what I do is I tell my students, okay, the stream is going to tell you what's going on, but to actually do your work and do the assignments, you need to go over to the classwork tab. And so that helps to create that delineation between the stream and the classwork tab. Show deleted items, I leave that off. If I put an assignment in and for whatever reason we didn't get to it, or students passed it, or I made a mistake or something like that, I don't need them to see those deleted items. And so this would be for teachers. If you wanted to have other teachers on here showing what the deleted items are, maybe you have a co-teacher and I deleted out an assignment, and my other co-teachers can still see what I deleted out. I leave the deleted items off. I think if we're deleting it, it should be gone. Guardian summaries. We want to leave the Guardian summaries on. This is a great example of communicating with parents. The Guardian summaries will go out to students. We can see an example of what a Guardian summary looks like here. And what the Guardian summary does is it'll go out to the parent emails. And so this is what a summary would look like. So it has what is the student work that they've got, missing work, what's due next week, class activity. So it gives parents a good idea of what's going on in the classroom. So the Guardian summaries are a great tool to have on. Definitely want to have that on. I think that's a great thing. Google Meet, this is going to be something that you're probably going to be using a lot of. So what we want to do is generate a meeting link, and there'll be another video to talk more about this, but this is a very secure way for you to have a Google Meet that's associated just with this class. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on for your Google Meeting link, and it is okay to keep this visible to students. And I'm going to show you how in a later video, but students will not be able to initiate a Google Meet call and we'll not be able to get that stuff. And so we'll kind of get back into that. Overall grade calculation. So what you can do is with the grading for Google Classroom, how do you want their grades to be? You can weight the grades by category with the 90-10 practice, do it by total points. I do my grades, just total points, and then do in the Synergy Classroom, they can see kind of how the grading is set up or where they go with it. And so but you can absolutely set this up weighted by category and create your categories as well. And we can create our grade categories here. So then this would be my assessment, which is going to be 90%, and my practice, which is going to be 10%. And so that would be my 90-10. So then I've got my grades set up by category. So once you're done, you're going to hit save, and that's going to be all of your settings. Or make sure that you save your settings of anything that you've put in here, so that you've got your grading settings, so that you've got everything. Again, you will need to set this up for each of your Google Classrooms so that you have got the information that you need there. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to pop over to Synergy and make sure that our settings are set up in Synergy. So we're going to open up our Synergy tab now, and we're going to look at what our settings are that we want to make sure that we have set up and linked in Synergy. So if you have the auto sync on, the auto sync will automatically sync your classes for you. This is the Rainbow G is where all of your Synergy settings are going to be set up for. So we're going to go in here, and under these settings tabs, the setting wheel, we're going to look at what other things we want to do. Session auto sync. You can absolutely leave that on. I recommend leaving it on. Every time you log into Synergy, it'll sync. You can manually sync anytime that you would like to, but this ensures that your Google Classes and Synergy are linked on a continual, consistent basis. Your sync options, you can choose what is your default assignment type, practice or assessment. I do more practice assignments than assessments, so I'm going to have mine set to practice. A default point value. So if I have maybe 95% of my assignments are worth 20 points, I can make it a default of 20. Now you can always change this. You don't have to do this. This is just what it's going to come up with as your autofill when you first create something. The sync block phrase. This is important in that if you have an assignment in Google Classroom that you don't want to come over to Synergy, in the description of the assignment, you want to put in parentheses, managed by Google Classroom, and you can change that to a different phrase if you'd like to. But that phrase, when you type that in, will make it so that the Synergy gradebook will not sync that particular assignment. Last one on here is going to be if you have scores of 0. If you put a score of 0 into a Google Classroom assignment, what comment code would you like to assign to that in Synergy? So by default, it's going to be leave zeros without a comment code, or you can select from one of the drop-down choices that you have here that it would get the late comment code, the absent comment code. I choose the incomplete comment code. Now this is different from not having a score. If you don't have a score, it's not going to get put into there. If I put a 0 in Google Classroom, that 0 is going to get the comment code of incomplete. So showing that an assignment has been graded, a student got a 0 on it, and so it's going to have the incomplete code. So once you've got your settings set up where you want, we're going to hit done. Next thing we need to do is just check our Synergy sync settings for the Google Classes. Now, if you go into Gradebook, and we're going to go into the Gradebook setup. and we need to go over to our class settings. Now, if you created your Google Classrooms from Synergy, you've already got this set up and done. If you created your Google Classrooms in the Google Classroom and then you're going to link them to Synergy, you're going to need to do a little more work on this one. So you should see all of your sections, and what you should see is that the Google Classroom sync is on for all of the classes that you would like to set up. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and assume that maybe I didn't have it set up right, or I'm going to change that. So I'm going to go to edit, and what I can do is if all of your class sections will be listed here. If you set your classes up in Google Classroom, the first thing you're going to want to do is click this enable all for Google Classroom, and all of your class sections will be linked to the Google Classroom. By default, it starts out disabled. You can enable it class by class if you would like to. So we're going to have this is going to be enabled. Then what we want to do is we also want to go down to the advanced options for each of our Google classes or each of our sections that we've got to make sure that we've got it. This is where it's important. If you created your classes in Google Classroom before your Synergy rosters were created, you need to make sure that the Google class code matches the class code of the class that you would like to do. So for example, now I'm not going to mess with this because I've already got a different class, but for example, if I want that Synergy class to be linked with the AHS Classroom Informative, here is my class code. The class code is this ARO4 or F4AJ. So what I would do is copy that classroom code, and in Synergy, I would put that class code right in here. And that would make it so that that class is now synced with this Synergy gradebook course, with the Egner B Parent View Test course. Okay. So if you have got, so if I look at this, this has got the G5Q. If I go back to my Google Classrooms, I'm going to close this one out here. This is actually linked to, is it this one? Yeah, G5Q. So this is the Google Classroom that is linked. So this code, QRQRW, is this code, QRQRW. So that's where that classroom is being synced to. Okay. So then what you want to do is make sure that you have your student roster synced. So that means that the students that are in your class will be synced to the Google Classroom. You want to sync the assignments so that the assignments in Google Classroom and the assignments that you create in Synergy go back and forth. And you want to sync the scores for Google Classroom. So you want to make sure that each of those are set up for it. Once you're done with everything, you're going to hit the save button. Any changes that you make, you will have to, for each section, make sure that your class codes and everything are set up right. You're going to hit the save button, and you are set with the basic settings for your Google Classrooms and Synergy link.